Hi, this is Wayne. Do you think that public servants ought to have salaries capped at $99,999 per year?
I'm Mike, and Clarksville says that it's okay for citizens downtown to drink and walk, but will pedestrians be able to puff, and pass?
And I'm Robert. Governor Lee has given the ability for collegiate athletes to start receiving payments for their image and likeness, but can they even read the contracts they're signing? Today, Freethinkers of Clarksville, Episode 7.
All right, Clarksville. I've seen a lot of news stories lately about this raising of the pay for teachers and particular school director or something like that. I don't know. I don't have any kids in school. But I did see the articles, and apparently they've given some teachers a raise and are debating giving this other guy a raise. But the comment that I saw caught my interest. The commenter says, no one in public service should make more than $99,999 a year. So I kind of thought, well, okay, it was a bit of an arbitrary cutoff. On the other hand, if that's not the cutoff, what should it be? Is there no limit to how much a public servant should make? Should we even pay them at all if they're doing public service? Michael, what do you think of this comment?
I think it's a little short-sighted to think that a public servant doesn't deserve to make more than $99,999 a year. That seems like a lot.
Okay.
But when we're talking, especially in this case, when you're talking about the superintendent of the Clarksville Montgomery County School System, where he just won an award for being one of the best superintendents in the state, and he's in running to be against other people to see if he's even better than that. So in this case, it works is that, take that individual for an example. If you don't pay him what he's valued in the private sector, then you'll lose him from the public sector. Now, if that individual has the skill set that makes life better for everyone that's involved, so if you have a public servant that makes life better for everyone in the public, and you don't pay them enough or comparable to those same positions in the private sector is going to come offer him a higher salary, and he's going to have no motivation to stay, and then you lose that expertise that he's built up, that they're going to be using in the area. You lose that to the private sector, and so the public then suffers. So,
do they? Let me push back a little bit here.
Okay.
If he goes and takes a job at a private school, right, the public still gets schooled one way or the other, right? He's still offering his services to the public. It's just that the public has decided that he's worth more than the government job, and so there are people in the public who are willing to voluntarily pay him more than the taxpayers are forced to pay him. And are we concerned that are we trying to compete with private schools? I mean, I don't know that we can ever really do that.
Of course you can compete with private school. Take a teacher that is an excellent teacher, right? Say they come through the school system, they find their groove, they're trained by the public school system, and they are gifted at teaching.
Right.
So they're excellent. Their students and all the students that they touch throughout their year perform better just simply because of their style of teaching, their ability to teach, their ability to teach other people.
Right.
Private school comes in, offers that teacher more money.
Okay.
They leave. That private school becomes better because that teacher is there.
Sure.
The public school then decreases in its value because you'll have a subpar teacher, or not subpar teacher, but a teacher that isn't as skilled will go in and replace that. So yes, the students will still get the same type of learning, but it won't be because of that, from that master teacher.
Now, I think the commenter here thinks to themselves perhaps something like this. If you say I'm going to go work in public service, you shouldn't be in it for the money. This is the criticism we have, say, if you're working at a religious institution or a nonprofit, right? You're not supposed to be in it for the money. A private company says, we're going to pay our teachers lots of money because we want the best teachers so we can charge the highest prices for the best education. Whereas the government's not supposed to be operating at a profit, and they're not concerned about providing the best possible service at the best possible price. We think public servants ought to be in it for the service work. He got an award, and you might say, well, I can't pay for my Netflix subscription with an award. Well, that's not the point. You should feel the satisfaction of doing good for children, and her pay should be $100,000 a year minus $1.
Yeah, if he's coming in though, and he's truly a public servant working through the system, right? Then the more money that he takes personally from taxpayer budgets, then the less is attributed to the organization as a whole, right?
I suppose.
There's only so much money to go around. There's only so many taxes. There's a percentage of budget that is voted on by, the legislators. So I don't know though. It seems like if anyone that's working in public service is not incentivized correctly, to default to someone's incentive value as only monetary gain. Now it should go hand in hand, right? People are incentivized by monetary prevalence, because if you're a director of a large school system, you expect to be, you definitely expect to be paid more than the teachers or the other administration there, because you're the main, lever that pulls everything for its success or failure. So I think capping it and then holding them incentivized by only their good nature or goodwill is false. I mean, people should be paid for the amount of progress that they're bringing to things, especially as it grows. I mean, it would be different if we knew that we would never build another school or hire more people or have pain points in our education system. But as our community grows, as our schools get added, as more personnel come into the fold, then that's more responsibility on that person. They have to think creatively, intuitively to match the demand. And if they're just doing that out of the goodness of their hearts, then I don't see how they'll ever stay in public service for that reason.
Well, Robert, I got two problems to present to you then. If you don't pick an arbitrary line, like $99,999,
sure,
right, then you only have two other options. One is you could set it arbitrarily low. And the problem with that, with paying politicians and government workers, very low wages or nothing, is that then only the rich can afford to be in public service, right? If I said that the president of the United States, that job pays nothing, right, then only someone who's independently wealthy, who already has enough money to support themselves, would ever run for president. Whereas if I made it fantastically, good paying, right, $100 billion a year, then people would want the position purely out of greed. And if we were really competing with, say, our school system, if we really think of ourselves as being in competition with the private sector, there's no competing, because I don't have to satisfy my customers in order to get them to voluntarily give me money. I can just take as much money as I want, right? As long as they don't rebel against me or vote me out. We can easily compete on price with private sector, because we can just take as much tax money as we want and give it to them. How do you balance that?
Well, I mean, I think we're always in the understanding of the difference between the institution and the individual, right? The individual is living in a capitalistic society where they are incentivized by whatever they choose, whatever is best for them, and thus they can leave, go wherever they need to fit their model. But I don't know, it kind of almost sounds, I'll go back to this, it sounds like socialism. It's like we put a cap on something, and because we draw a demarcation line at a specific level of height, then I would almost argue that probably would be one of the better scenarios, where we have people who have become independently wealthy because of what they've done in the private sector, and then that incentivizes them to move into the public sector, where they aren't there for the cash. They're only there to make positive change, and that would make sure that they would never have to be incentivized to make more money or ask for a pay raise, no matter what the leverage of the actual responsibilities are.
All right, well, folks, let us know in the comments what you think. How much should we pay teachers? How much should we pay school directors? Should we set an arbitrary limit, or just let the market decide and get the best we can at the cheapest price? Let us know. Thank you.
All right, I want to just relax into the second topic, okay?
Okay.
I want to just gather around with a few friends, go out to downtown, pop open a couple beers, and then I want to just walk around the street and drink.
Okay.
That'd be fun, right? Usually can't do that, maybe.
Some cities, yeah.
Some cities. Downtown, they're going to make it so where it's officially okay for there to be open containers downtown.
Okay.
Only specific parts, but so there's going to be more street parties. You're going to be able to go from restaurant to restaurant without having to throw your drink away. You're going to be good to go. One commenter has not a problem, but just has a question about that. All right, they recognize, according to this comment here, they recognize that they're trying to do anything they can to entice people back downtown.
Right.
And they say maybe this will work, right? But they have a question, though. It's pretty ironic that Tennessee is one of only 6 states left where marijuana is totally illegal. But they don't consider an open container to increase revenue for certain businesses to be a problem. Getting drunk is okay, but getting high is a big no-no. So the question I think here that we need to discuss is if they're looking to bring revenue downtown and increase people going downtown, walking around, they're taking away any sort of risk that they might get public intoxication charges, right?
Right.
Is it just for the money? Because they could easily do this. They could easily legalize marijuana, do the same thing. People would be able to go down, relax with their friends without getting high, or with getting high without getting worried about getting arrested. So is there a significant difference between alcohol consumption and marijuana consumption that would, make it to where one would be okay to do and the other not?
Okay.
Robert, what do you think?
I think he's standing on some good ground there. We obviously Tennessee, especially here in the Clarksville area, we know we've got a lot of breweries opening up. New distilleries opening up. We've kind of we've kind of become really accustomed to being the state of Jack Daniels, and we got a lot of bourbon up north, and for some reason that sits better at home for us. I think a lot of the conversations that happen around the wacky weed feel almost like it's a coastal thing. It's kind of being oppressive, but I don't think I think it's just kind of an ignorance to the idea that there's marijuana being used in this state. Whether it's legalized and not taxed is a decision that the legislators have to decide on. I guess as the freedoms kind of open up more for people to drink and enjoy themselves and inebriate and have a good time, let's back it up a little bit. So most of the time when states cross over, they don't go straight to recreational. They lead in on medicinal marijuana use, and then they kind of inkling into the recreational side. So I guess this fellow's wondering why we keep going so far with alcohol, these open container laws, that aren't a big deal in Tennessee. And why can't we just get to even a fundamental concept, even just maybe decriminalization? That would even be a baby step in the right direction for Tennessee. So I think he's got some merit. I think we need to start thinking about how to better serve our populace when it comes to their choices and their decisions.
Right. The commenter seems to say, well, look, if you're expanding people's access and freedom when it comes to drinking alcohol, right? Why not do the same with marijuana? And there's only a couple of possibilities I can think of to respond. And one is to say that there is a qualitative difference between alcohol and marijuana, right? That the way it affects someone's body, the way it affects our society are different. I could respond with that. I think all the data says marijuana is less bad for society than alcohol. Like just overall, you look at the cause of car accidents, the cause of criminal activity, the health effects. On balance, as far as I can tell, alcohol is worse than marijuana. Now, we haven't seen anywhere in the world, I think, a country where they just fully legalize marijuana. People can have it all they want. I imagine if we did that, we would run into long-term problems, the same as you might with cigarettes. It took a while to figure out what the dangers there really were. And maybe if we legalized marijuana, we would realize some of the bad health effects. But when it comes to things like people getting drunk, getting DUIs, things like that, marijuana is just not the issue. The same argument would be, I suppose, made for downtown. If we're going to allow people to walk around drinking beer downtown, unrestricted, why not let them enjoy marijuana? You could say, well, that's not that's not the sort of business we're in. Hey, smoking a joint is going to bother people the way smoking a cigarette will, because it pollutes the air, whatnot. And there's ways around all of that. Here is what I think it comes down to. There's no businesses downtown advocating to be able to sell marijuana. Right? That's just not something that's going to be a big driving factor, because a restaurant doesn't make its money for the most part off of food. They make it from selling drinks, whether that be sodas, alcohol, etc. And that doesn't dovetail with selling marijuana. If you legalize marijuana in Tennessee, all of that business would go to new stores. People would open up marijuana shops. Every CBD shop in town would turn into a marijuana shop overnight, of course. But it doesn't mean places like the Black Horse, are going to start selling weed, right? So the existing powerful business interests aren't the ones advocating for legalization of marijuana, and in fact quite the opposite. I imagine all of the, as you mentioned, the breweries and the distilleries and such don't want Clarksville to become oriented towards marijuana, because then we're no longer the town that drinks.
So we don't. Okay, and you think it's just more culturally appropriate for? Culturally, we think of eating and drinking going hand in hand. Nobody would sit down at a big meal and smoke a joint or eat an edible and then sit down and eat something on top of it.
Allowing businesses downtown to start opening up patios on the sidewalk and selling beer and such is not going to change the culture or the business of Clarksville. It's just going to enhance it. If we legalized marijuana in Clarksville, it would transform this town overnight.
Sure.
I think so.
I wonder what they would do. I mean, could conceptually, could they actually open up like a marijuana usage-free zone downtown where it's like all,
Nashville kind of did, right?
Just in this area.
Nashville has,
decriminalized.
Nashville had their district attorney say, well, we're not going to bother prosecuting low-level marijuana offenses. It's still illegal. It's just that basically the head cop said, I ain't going to do anything about it.
Sure.
All right. So do you think it is just strictly based on the money or economic viability of adding alcohol open container laws versus legalizing marijuana? So.
I think there are business interests behind the proposal to turn Clarksville into a Beale Street type area. I don't think those same businesses are going to be on board with, why don't we also legalize marijuana?
I just want to see how many drunk people fall into the hole that is the new convention center.
Yes.
All right. Tell us what you think in the comments.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. I want to bring us into a sports topic, okay? We're going to be talking about Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signing a new order giving name, image, likeness bill for college athletes to receive compensation.
Oh.
Okay. So start getting paid when and just to be clear, it has to be a third party, right? The school cannot pay them for using their images, things like that.
Okay.
So third party deals that go along with using these talented athletes. There's a big market for that. I think previously they've been shunted from getting this, or maybe deals are being made through the college, and the college ends up taking most of it while they're using their name, image, and likeness to draw crowds. This law is set to take effect on January 1st, 2022.
Okay.
So, we're coming up on it. So, in the comments, this was from the Leaf Chronicle, by the way, posted from the Leaf Chronicle. So I'm looking in the comments on the Leaf Chronicle, and one of the commenters says, "That's great. Rather upsetting that colleges pretend that their education is the reward when the average NCAA Division I athlete reads at a third grade level." So, I guess the question is, let's tackle the first part of that. Okay, I think is the most controversial thing.
Okay.
Can someone truly, read at a third grade level and be able to compete at a high level of NCAA Division I football? I mean, you'd have to be able to read a little. Imagine there's reading or plays.
Third grade's pretty high level.
Is that pretty high? Is that pretty high?
I don't know that you need much beyond a third grade level.
Could you read like the Twilight series at a third grade
Absolutely.
level? Oh, okay.
That's
okay.
absolutely ridiculous.
Okay. So, but I we'll tackle that, and then I also wanted to say, do you agree with the commenter that schools are pretending an education is the prize You know, I mean, he makes a very clear argument there. Or is he missing the point that most college athletes are gearing up for pro sports drafting, which, you know, this will put them in line with what their real life job's going to be, you know, if they're intended to make it there without injury or harm. So, Wayne, I mean, let me know. I mean, obviously you think third grade is all you need.
I talked to a guy the other day, and he was telling me about all of these colleges that he'd been accepted into, and these were big name colleges. And I talked to the guy for a bit, and he just seemed dumb as a rock.
Okay.
You know, he spoke at his vocabulary was less than the third grade level, right? He seemed someone very much, and it was surprising to me, you know, about all these colleges he was looking at going to.
Sure.
And I was like, "You're going for higher education, okay?" And then I learned it was to play sports
For athletics, yeah.
right? He was really good at athletics. And he was in high demand, and all these schools wanted him, and he was having to make some hard decisions about where he's going to go to college. Mm-hmm. And he was not thinking at all about, you know, I'm going to, you know, go be an engineer or, you know, make rocket ships or something. He was going to go play sports. And it made me think, I don't know that there's anything wrong with people doing what they're good at and not pushing them to be good at something that they're not, right? You don't, you know, what's a third grade reading level? Charlotte's Web, the book, right? That's, you know, Wilbur and the spider and, you know, some pig. Yeah, if you can read that well, you can pretty well do anything else in life that you need to at a basic level. And if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, you're going to need some specialized education. But if you're going to be a professional football player, or a basketball player or a golfer or something like that, yes, in your day-to-day life, you need to be educated enough to do your basic reading, math, and stuff. But otherwise, set that stuff aside. And you know, I think of a college as a place where people go to learn brainy things. It doesn't have to be that.
Well, that brings up a really good kind of idea. Is like, why then are we bolting on you know, these athletic institutions with colleges in the first place? Then, I mean, why isn't there not a subset of a Division I that's not associated with a college? I mean, colleges do want to draw talent to them,
Sure,
and have those kind of you know, ringing bell. You know, we had the best Heisman Trophy winners here, and our institution is huge for football, and we also have this prize, which is a great education. I mean, if we can get them to a fourth grade reading level while they're playing football, then we've done our job. Maybe.
If somebody is, you know, fantastic at a particular thing, but say can't read at all. Let's say you're, you know, a great football player, and let's say you have a learning disability. I don't know what happens to a person like that. Do they get to go to college with special exceptions and get to play anyways, or do they have to just go straight to the NFL or something?
Sure.
You know, I think of academics as being.
I'm going to have to.
Here we go.
I'm going to have to cut in here.
Let's.
Okay. First of all, it is absurd to think that college athletes, on average, or even at all, have a third grade reading level.
Okay.
First of all, the vast majority of college athletes do not go on pro and do not have aspirations to go on to pro.
Sure.
They have aspirations to go on and play in college so that they can go to a better school that they would normally be able to afford by playing on their sports team.
Sure. Okay.
I mean so, that seems non-controversial.
You think most college sports players are there for the education and they're just using their sports as a way to get in?
I would say 99.9%, because the 99% of people know they're not good enough to go on and play professional sports.
Okay.
I mean, that seems to me that given that one person will get picked out of an entire team every year, if that,
Sure.
That seems to be the case to me. That just seems obvious. Secondly, you're talking about third grade reading level. So before people even get good enough to be considered to go to college, they have to go through elementary school, middle school, and then high school sports, right?
Right.
So if they have a third grade reading level, they're not so good in third grade that every single teacher they have between third grade and graduation will ignore the fact that they can't read beyond the third grade level. That's actually, to think that that's the case, that's absolutely absurd.
I think you might be wrong there, Mike. I mean,
maybe
that's
if you're good at basketball,
yeah.
Maybe your professor overlooks it. I've heard of those scandals.
That fourth grade teacher has that basketball. Is like, man, I see he has some potential. He's going to grow about 4 feet, and he's going to be able to shoot up, and so we're just going to skip him through all these.
We're probably
do all his homework for him.
You're taking it too far
Oh.
back. What they would start to notice is that once they're at middle school to the high school level, that this guy has been passed and passed and passed, and now he's at a level where there's a really high expectation. You know, he's outside of the No Child Left Behind thing for the elementary or the low-end middle schools, and now he's at a level where his prowess is showing for athletic competition.
Well, I'll just close it out. If that's the case, if somebody's been taking care of him his whole life, or the athlete that from the third grade reading that can't read higher than third grade, his whole career up to the point where he's signing contracts, he's got somebody looking out for his back to make sure he makes money, because they've been grooming him his whole life to make money. So he's not going to go in there with a crown and start signing contracts. He's going to have his lawyers already set. So that's my opinion. I think the athletes are going to be okay. Whether or not they should make money, I mean, I don't
So
care.
the
If
true-
they're good enough that people want to pay them money for be on cereal boxes, go ahead.
So the true prize in college athletics is the education.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Wayne, you think so? No.
College is mostly a waste of time.
Guys,
for
let
most
us
people.
know. Please comment. Please let us know what you think. A lot of people are big fans out there. You know, go Vols. Let's see what kind
Sports.
of image and likeness. The sporks.
Yeah.
We're gonna make up some new terms here. All right. Oh,
Education is great.
Mike. Okay. Education
Sports are
is
okay.
All right. Thank you, Mike. We get it. We get it. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Comment and like. Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a great time having these discussions. A lot of really good topics, guys, I think. If you would like to draw our attention to some extra topics that we might have missed over but you think need a little more talking about, a little more value, please use the hashtag FTOC or FTO Clarksville so that we can draw down on those comments and bring them on the show.
And if you'd like to be a guest on our show, send us a message. Check us out on Facebook at Freethinkers of Clarksville. Let us know what you'd like to come in and talk about. We may send you an invite.
All right, Clarksville. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Freethinkers of Clarksville. And as always, stay in school.